from investing in higher education. And that was the crown jewel of our education system, our state systems. You know, we have obviously great private institutions, but what was the real game changer when you compare American higher ed with everybody else are our state systems. And so we've got to get states to do that. And this is one of my other differences with Senator Sanders. His plan for free college requires states to pay 1/3 of the cost. You have states won't pay that are cutting higher ed. They're not going to come up with, you know, $28 billion for their share. It's just not going to happen. And I don't want to hold out a promise that is going to disappoint a lot of people. So my point is, I want to give bonuses to systems that actually do put more money back in. Where did all the money go? Well, you know, some of it went to tax cuts and all that, but some of it went to roads and prisons. And we do not need any more prisons. We have enough prisons. And so we need to stop building prisons. We need to be shrinking the prison population, doing away with, you know, low-level offenses, nonviolent offenses, more diversionary programs. And we need incentives so that people in states can say to their legislators and their governors, you know, state next door is getting federal dollars to reinvest in the state system. Why aren't you? So that's how I'm thinking about it. Because you're 100% right. It's heartbreaking to see what's happening as states walk away.
It's hurting so many of the students that are first generation.
That's right.
Minority students.
That's right.
That depend on affordable higher education.
Right.
For opportunity.
And you know what else it's doing? If you look at economic development, entrepreneurial activity, research, and the like, higher education is at the core. And so when you're cutting higher ed and you are shutting labs and shutting research projects and doing away with scholarship and other kinds of financial help for students, you're also really undermining the potential for your economic development. So it makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand why states do that. And, you know, obviously I've seen it in a lot of the Republican governors who are just determined to slash higher education. And it's so short-sighted because there's a great bunch of studies about how if you put higher ed at the center of economic development, you have incubators attached to colleges and universities. You really encourage the so-called creative class to settle around colleges and universities. You will create economic activity. So why would you walk away from that? It's just so self-defeating.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi.
I've been trying to get your attention over here. Thank you so much for coming. I wanted to ask a question which actually piggybacks off of the last two questions on behalf of veterans and military families, military spouses,
right,
and the upward mobility of military spouses. I joined the Navy and got my bachelor's degree paid for with the GI Bill. And my problem has been, how do I pay for that postgraduate education as a veteran? I don't fall within the 9/11 GI Bill because I served as one of the first 300 women on board the Nimitz. So I'm a little bit older, and I'm looking actually to pursue my law degree.
Right.
There are very little avenues in which to do that as a veteran because it seems like the push has been to get all veterans with bachelor's degrees. We all live here in Northern Virginia. It's a very competitive market. A bachelor's degree is like a high school diploma here. What can you do as president to help enable those military families who want to get a postgraduate education achieve that goal?
That's a great question, and I will tell you, I'm going to look at it. I did not know that you were totally shut out from any kind of military benefit under either the 9/11 GI Bill or the pre-GI Bill. I did not know that. I thought that it was still available for...
I served from 1994 to 1998.
Okay, well, I'm going to look into that, and we will see what we can do. But the short answer is we need to be encouraging everyone, especially our veterans, to continue their education and to look for what would be a competitive advantage, because it's not the only market where it's going to be challenging. So let me look into that, and we will follow up, and we'll follow up with you and find out what more we can get, because I thought there were programs. Let me just take a hard look at that, okay? Yeah. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add, just what are your thoughts on undocumented students and immigrant families? Living in this area, there has been an influx of undocumented families and undocumented students, and I just wanted to know what your stance on that was, just going forward.
Well, I really support the President's efforts under DACA and DAPA to try to keep families together and avoid the deportation of family members, because so many families are mixed. They have undocumented and citizen members. Like the older children may be undocumented, the younger children are citizens, and it's just a very complicated family challenge. So I want to see us move toward comprehensive immigration reform. In the meantime, I would like to see if people who are undocumented can pay in-state tuition, they should be able to go to in-state institutions. Because remember, most of the undocumented workers are covered in some way by the tax system. Like they pay $12 billion a year to Social Security, for example. A lot of them pay payroll taxes, which is what goes into Social Security. They pay other forms of taxes. So it's not that they are totally out of the tax system. They are part of the tax system, but they don't get any benefits for it. And I think the most important benefit would be opening doors for ambitious kids who are wanting to continue their education and get them covered by in-state tuition if they go to a public institution.
And you talked about, like, their families are already kind of embedded in the tax system.
Right.
What about financial aid for those students that are part of?
I would want that to be an institutional and a state response until we get to comprehensive immigration reform. Because then if you're on a path to citizenship and you can be certified as such, then you would be eligible for everything. Right now, it's kind of a state-by-state determination. And some states have been very open and other states very closed. And it's sad to me because a lot of these young people are, very determined, very hardworking, very ambitious, and they deserve a chance to, go as far as their hard work will take them too, I think. So, yeah.
My name is Andrea Fulton. I appreciate your remarks on addressing college tuition costs, but part of the reason my family has trouble saving money for my daughter's future college tuition is the cost of child care. So she's 2.5, and we pay almost $16,000 a year for a full-day preschool, and that's pretty common for this area. So I'm wondering what policy initiatives you're looking at that can help families.
I mean, I just find that so sad, so heartbreaking. $16,000 a year for a 2.5-year-old. Look, I think once we get Loudoun County to get kindergarten, I would like to see us look at universal pre-K in the school system. That doesn't necessarily help from 0 until 4, but then we need to take a hard look at how we have a child care system that does provide quality child care at an affordable cost, but also pays the child care workers enough so that they are of high quality. So we are in this classic dilemma. If you pay the child care workers more, like you're going to a place $16,000, that's a very, very big bill, but you are comfortable with it, I assume, and the workers there are paid more than they are in most child care. A lot of child care now is minimum wage or slightly above, and there's a very big turnover. People are there. They can't support their own families, and because of the turnover, they can't really guarantee quality child care to you as a concerned parent. This is a dilemma that we've got to address, and so I want us to look at universal pre-K. I want us to look at, certainly expanding the base for low-income people, but then creating more opportunities, more tax benefits, more subsidies, more support for people as you go up the income level, so that it's not the cost that you are paying that is equivalent to tuition. And you can begin to save for your child's college because that's something that everybody worries about. So we're looking hard at this. Universal pre-K will be a big help. New York City just got universal pre-K, and the early studies, it's early, it's only a year plus, But the early studies are, pretty positive. It's not universally great, but it's pretty positive. And it's also much higher quality than many of the kids at all income levels who are in the public school system had access to before. So I'm looking for how we subsidize and create more opportunities, and we really should be looking at the public schools because that's the institutional base, and it makes sense. Like if you have a first grader, if you had an early childhood program, the 3-year-old could be there too. Think about how convenient that would be for working parents, right? So I just think there's a lot we need to start looking at all of these programs through the lens of what life is really like today, not what it was like 50 years ago. And we still are thinking about it like it was 50 years ago. And that's just not fair. So, yeah.
Hi, Danielle Knoll. I'm a 3-year now cancer survivor. So switching gears a little bit from education, I guess, something that I'm really excited about having a female president is focusing on women's cancers. And I know, obviously, Vice President Biden's Cancer Moonshot is an amazing initiative. I am a cervical cancer survivor and have met so many women. Of the female cancers, that's the only one that actually has a diagnostic tool in the pap smear and the HPV test. So I guess, as I'm raising children, I hope that cervical cancer with the HPV vaccine and the screenings available is eradicated in my children's lifetime. Right. And that's something I work very hard, to advocate for and educate, the community on now. But I guess my question would be, what sort of priority do you give to, cancer fundraising specifically for female cancers? I've met so many women in my journey that have lost their ability to have children, that have been diagnosed with ovarian, uterine, other types of cancer, cervical, of course, included, because there are no diagnostic tests for those. Right. And it impacts so many people and people's ability to have family, and, of course, all cancer does. But, it's particularly heartbreaking that in this day and age, curing cancer is a moonshot. I get that, but we should be able to diagnose these cancers in women. They're killing so many women and taking their ability to have families.
Well, first of all, thanks for raising that. And it's wonderful to hear you talk so passionately about this.
Quite passionate about it, yes.
Yes, well, as well you should be. And I have to say that it's been a challenge, which we are, I think, slowly but surely meeting. I can remember, it's hard to believe now, but back in the 1980s, it became known that tests for all diseases were on men. And I give Barbara Mikulski, the wonderful senator from Maryland, a lot of credit because she just went ballistic. And when Barb goes ballistic, people pay attention. But, to have breast cancer tests on men, for example, so that the other women's cancers were, really relegated to the back burner completely. That has changed somewhat, but not enough. And it's connected to what we do need to be doing on cancer. And I really appreciate your mentioning what Vice President Biden's doing, because I support that completely. Obviously, I will do everything to continue that. We need to get that really started and get the resources for it. But we've lost a little bit of ground in the last several years because research budgets were cut across the board under sequestration, which was a very blunt tool in every way, where you just cut it. And what that meant was that more established programs were saved, but new, more experimental programs, or in areas like ovarian, cervical, uterine cancer, endometrial cancer, all of that, they were kind of left behind, as were other kinds of research. So we need to up the research budget overall, and we need to up it for women's cancers, and we need to have a full press on how we find diagnosis and then treatment options. But that's why you're mentioning HPV is so important. HPV is a miracle drug, and too many families and, frankly, politicians have scared people away from vaccinating their boys and their girls, but particularly their girls. And it's really been a shame because it's got a proven track record of preventing cancer. And so I hope, one of the things that I hope we can do is make a big public education effort out of that again, because we've got to get more young women and young men vaccinated in HPV.